find animals everywhere. You name a place and you will be able to think of animals that live there. Even in busy cities, animals coexist with people. In fact, cockroaches, rats, and mice thrive in the garbage dumps that we create. Each animal, from the largest blue whale to the tiniest of insects and worms, are well adapted to live in their particular habitat. Be it their body covering, body size, placement of eyes, breathing and feeding organs, kinds of feet, etc., the animals have it all. Body coverings. Each kind of animal has a specific type of body covering. This covering enables the animal to adapt to its particular habitat. Birds have feathers. Some animals have shells. Fish and reptiles have scales. Some animals have fur, hair, and wool. Amphibians have wet and moist skin.
Flight, a wonder. The lighter you are, the easier it is to fly. Even large birds are not very heavy. Their body is shaped like an arrow, pointed at the head as well as at the tail. They have light hollow bones. This reduces their body weight. They have wings. Their body is covered with feathers. There are 4 types of feathers, namely down feathers, body feathers, flight feathers, and tail feathers. Down feathers are small and fluffy. These feathers cover the bird's body and keep it warm. Body feathers are bigger than down feathers. Flight feathers are long feathers present on the wings. They help the birds to fly. Tail feathers are also long and help the birds to slow down and change direction. A bird flies by flapping its wings up and down. All birds depend on the quality of their feathers to keep them airborne. Birds inspired man to build an aeroplane.
Shells. Some soft-bodied animals have a hard outer covering called a shell, which is mainly a defense mechanism. They hide in their shells whenever they sense danger. They pull their heads, legs, and tails into the shells. Beetles and cockroaches also have a shell covering for protection, although their shells are not as hard and neither does it allow them to hide. Scales. Protecting oneself from predators, enemies, and other habitat hazards, as in thorns, scrubby bushes, and stones, etc., is a primary need of all animals. Fish and reptiles have bodies that are covered with scales. Scales act as a protective layer. As they are mostly made of keratin or bones, they are a little hard and may limit the body's movement. But nothing in nature is a misfit, and each species has been equipped beautifully to survive in its respective habitat. While snakes have scales that are dry, hard, and keeled, enabling them to slither across rough land, fish scales are covered with a layer of slime to help them glide through water in all conditions, calm or stormy. Reptiles have scales that are much bigger, hard, and bony.
Fur. Animals living in cold regions. Animals living in snow-covered areas have hair that develops into thick fur to protect them from the severe cold. Polar bears are found in cold regions. They have thick white fur. Other animals like whale, seal, walrus have a thick layer of fat called blubber under their skin to protect them from freezing water. Polar bear has fur even on its paws so that it does not feel the cold ice and water. The skin of the polar bear is black to absorb as much heat as it can. The fur that covers the skin is white.
Skin. Skin is the most important protective organ against the outside world. Unlike most animals, amphibians have a very thin skin. As they stay both on land and in water, they breathe through their moist skin when on land. Frogs and toads develop lungs as they become adults, but they do take in additional oxygen through their skin. Some species of salamanders breathe only through their skin. They have neither lungs nor gills. The skin of amphibians feels slippery as glands just below the surface secrete mucus, which keeps their skin soft and moist. As they are cold-blooded and cannot regulate their body temperature, the moist skin helps their body from becoming too hot or too cold. They also have poison glands on their skin to ward off predators. The American poison dart frog is extremely poisonous to touch.
Let's look at some of the weirdest noses or snouts in the animal kingdom. Animals usually use their noses and snouts to investigate new places and to forage for food.
Apart from breathing, their sensitive noses can smell and sense food and danger. Respiration of underwater animals. All living beings require oxygen to survive. Creatures living in water have special adaptations to take in oxygen for breathing. The process of breathing in a fish starts when it takes water into its mouth. The thin walls of the gills have a lot of blood vessels which absorb the oxygen dissolved in the water. The oxygen is distributed to the cells through the bloodstream, and the carbon dioxide released by the cells is brought back. This is thrown out through the gills along with the water. Crayfish lives in deep water. Its gills are under its shell. Respiration in aquatic mammals. Aquatic mammals need to come to the surface to breathe. That is why they have blowholes on the top of their heads. This way, they can keep most of the body underwater, just exposing their head and mouth to take in oxygen. Breathing in insects. Insects such as cockroaches and grasshoppers have very small openings on their bodies called spiracles, through which they inhale and exhale air. The spiracles open into a network of air tubes inside the body called tracheae, which carry oxygen in the inhaled air to every part of the body. Breathing in worms. Earthworms have a wet or moist skin which helps in breathing. They take in oxygen through this moist skin and it goes directly into their bloodstream. That is why earthworms are generally seen in wet mud during the monsoons. Breathing in amphibians. Frogs and toads live on land as well as in water. They breathe through skin when in water and through their lungs when on land. All living organisms inhale or breathe in oxygen and exhale or breathe out carbon dioxide. Reptiles, birds, and mammals breathe with the help of lungs. However, they have different organs for breathing. Movement in animals. Movement in animals is also called locomotion. Animals move from place to place for various reasons. In search of water, food, and shelter, to protect themselves and their young ones during difficult climatic conditions, as well as from enemies and predators, to find suitable partners for reproduction. Movement in terrestrial, that is, land animals. Most terrestrial animals have two pairs of limbs. The front ones are called forelimbs, while the rear ones are called hind limbs. Animals such as elephants, cows, camels, lions, tigers use their forelimbs as well as hind limbs for locomotion, such as walking, running, or climbing. Rabbits have very large, muscular rear legs, which they mostly use to escape from their predators. Their legs help them cover the ground in large, hopping strides. Frogs also have very strong hind limbs, which help them jump both higher and farther. Human beings only use their hind limbs for movement. Snakes do not have legs and therefore use their muscles and scales to push their body ahead. Movement in aerial, that is, airborne animals. Most birds fly by means of feathered wings. Their forelimbs are modified into wings. They have powerful breast muscles which help them fly in air. Their hind limbs help them to perch, hop, run, and catch prey. Tails also help them direct the flight. Birds have a very light skeleton and fast digestion, which favors flying. Bats also fly, but their wings are actually the skin folds between the forelimb bones rather than feathered wings. Insects like butterflies, bees, etc. have thin membranes which help them fly. Movement in aquatic, that is, waterborne animals. Fish are an excellent example of adaptation in animals. Their streamlined body helps them swim in water. Their fins help movement, balance, and change in direction as they move through the water. Many amphibians and ducks have webbed feet since they help them as oars or pedals when they are in the water, or to walk on the soft, wet mud when they are on the land close to the water body. Penguins, that is, aquatic flightless birds, as well as sea turtles, have their forelimbs in the form of flippers which help them swim in water. Locomotion. Free swimming. Jellyfish is a free swimming animal. Jet propulsion. Jet propulsion is a method of locomotion in which force is applied by pushing a jet of water or air in the opposite direction of movement. This helps the animal to move in the desired direction. Movement of octopus and squid occurs through jet propulsion. Their tentacles help them catch prey. The tail fin of a fish helps it to change direction. Flippers and hind rudders are found in penguins and sea turtles. Whales have very strong flippers. Ducks and swans are aquatic birds with webbed feet that act as oars and help them swim. Movement of tree dwellers. Animals that live high up in the trees leap through the branches, but they can get badly injured or even die if they fall. Apart from the limbs, these animals have a strong tail to give them additional grip and support both for climbing up or sliding down trees. Movement in animals living on open grounds. Animals that live in vast open grasslands prefer to hop and jump to cover long distances rather than run to save on energy. Most hoppers have long hind limbs and much shorter forelimbs. Kangaroo, wallaby, African spring hare, and gerbil all hop around to find food and escape danger. Movement in animals with small legs. Tree frogs have sticky pads on the tips of their toes, which act as suckers and give them the grip to walk on smooth and slippery surfaces. Geckos have thousands of microscopic hair on each foot, and the tip of each hair has lots of tiny pads. As the gecko slides across any smooth surface, including glass ceilings, the tiny pads and hair grip the surface just like Velcro. The gecko slides its foot in the opposite direction to lift it. Draco is commonly known as flying lizard. These lizards fan out their ribs into a pair of stiff flaps which they fold or unfold like a pair of wings as they launch themselves into the air from high up a tree. This is how they glide to the next nearest tree and avoid the dangers of moving on the forest floor.
All animals need air, food and water to live, grow, work and keep good health. They depend on plants and other animals for their food. Animals eat the raw roots, leaves and other parts of plants as well as the raw flesh of other animals whereas we cook most of our food. Beaks. The shape of a bird's beak depends upon the type of food it eats. As birds do not chew their food, they do not have any teeth. They use their beaks to bite, crush, or tear the food. Curved beak of a parrot helps it in eating fruits and cracking nuts. Crushing beak of a pigeon helps it to crush grains and seeds. Tearing beak of an eagle helps it in piercing and tearing the animal's flesh. Sifting beak of a duck helps it to dig for and filter food from the mud. Probing beak of a hummingbird helps it to drink nectar from flowers. Chiseling beak of a woodpecker helps it to peck wood and eat insects.
Eyes. Many animals have large eyes for hunting prey, especially in the dark. Tongues. Tongues taste, lap up liquids, move food in the mouth, and also help animals groom themselves. Teeth. Teeth shapes vary according to use. Fingers and claws. Barn owl grips and grabs prey with its piercing talons. Lemur pokes tree trunks or stones to get its meal of grub or insect larvae from under barks and stones. Pincers. Pincers work like pliers for crushing and cutting prey. Tentacles. Tentacles are mostly used for feeling and grasping prey.